Blue Archive is the best gacha game that I have played all year. And this is coming from someone that has not missed a day logging into Arknights, with Arknights being my favorite gacha game of all time. I did a video on Blue Archive at some point last year. In that video, I made it through, I think, 2 of the chapters, or missions as they're referred to in this game. I have since made it through 8 additional missions, each mission being comprised of 5 submissions, and each 5 submissions having 2 submissions themselves. So yeah, that equates to a whole lot of gameplay that I've engaged in. I've made a lot of progress. I've been playing this game for a couple hours every single day for I think the last 10 days. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm at a point where I pretty much finished everything in Arknights right now, and I was looking for something to play, to record footage of, while I was waiting for a new event to come out, and at the same time, something popular that I could also do another more updated, dedicated video on that I'd covered in the past that maybe I didn't dedicate enough time to. Blue Archive was one such game. I already played Punishing Gray Raven, and I'm working on a video for that, but Blue Archive was a game that I think I never did justice for. This is a game that is so much different to what I initially thought. After finishing the first 2 missions of the game, or the first 2 chapters, so that is dozens of fights, I was under the impression that the game was relatively easy. I was under the impression that theoretically I could just go right into any mission that I wanted to. I could deploy my units. I didn't have to pay any attention to their class archetypes, whether they were support, whether they were healer, whether they were DPS or tank. I didn't factor in team compositions. I really put absolutely no thought whatsoever into the game, and that was my fault. I was under the misconception that I could pretty much just YOLO the game with minimal effort, minimal knowledge. It turns out that is definitely not the case. And while I have definitely been building up a specific unit, I have noticed that as I've continued through the game, the importance of a secondary unit is paramount. It is of equal importance to your main unit. Thus far, I have been capable of deploying 2 units per mission. I don't know if it expands to 3. God, I hope not. That would be too many characters for me to micromanage. And admittedly, even though I have put a lot of time and a lot of effort into leveling my second unit, into upgrading their skills, their abilities, into leveling their tier 1 gear into tier 2 gear, their tier 2 gear into tier 3 gear. And as of mission 10, I believe, and 11, I've unlocked the option to upgrade their tier 3 gear to tier 4 gear. Even though every character I have is in minimum tier 3 gear, and as every skill and EX skill at least level to 2 or 3, even in spite of all this, I've come to realize that this game is horrendously difficult, but not in a bad way. In a way that I just didn't anticipate, because I recall saying that the game was easy and that I could just auto through it all. And that's essentially what I did. I autoed through the game. I never had to pay any heed whatsoever to how my characters synergized with one another. I didn't bother taking note of whether I needed specific characters that had a specific affinity, that had specific strengths that would benefit me in the mission that I was tackling. I didn't know that I needed a healer. I mean, like, let's be honest, I had no healer initially, and I didn't even have a tank. I think I went like 4 full DPS, and I was encountering issues in the final mission in the final fight of mission 1 and mission 2. And like, look at this. These are fairly well upgraded characters, and I'm getting my ass kicked. I'm gonna pass the timer, I'm gonna run out of time, and I'm gonna fail the fight. Evidently, this game is so much more complex than I had ever given it credit for. And I love difficult games. I love games that challenge me, that make me think. I might not be very good at them, but I love the challenge nonetheless. And this game has provided me an infinite amount of challenge thus far. Before we go any deeper though, I want to take a moment here to thank our incredible patrons over on Patreon who allow for me to continue to play gacha games like this for a living. You guys are deeply appreciated. There are numerous game modes. There are missions, which we just covered. There is a story, various kinds of story, mini story, main story, group story. The main story allows for you to move through each chapter. There are a lot of them, as you can see, and like this is an easy way of farming crystals, and of course learning about all the waifus that are present in game. I think you could probably make tens of thousands of premium currency just going through the story, and you don't need to pay attention to all of it. You can skip some of it. I feel like all of us have skipped some of the story in the game. There's the bounty feature, which allows for you to farm materials. I admittedly have only pushed through overpass D in all three thus far. I'm not strong enough to push E or any further. There are commissions, which allow for you to again farm item currency, materials, scrimmages, which admittedly I have still not finished a single one of. I'm incapable. I mean, okay, I did, but I couldn't 3-star it. Don't judge me. This is still a work in progress for me. There's a total assault, which I think, if I recall, was a type of raid. I only participated in it one time when it was open. There's a joint firing drill, which admittedly I haven't done too great with. There's the tactical challenge, which is essentially like a PvP mode, which I have actually done pretty good with. Rank 72, actually. Soon to be rank 1. I think there are multiple events that are currently going on. Oh man, this only has 2 days left. I've actually pushed through a lot of it. Admittedly not of the challenge yet, but finished the story, moving through the quest. I don't think I'm high enough though to finish these. 9 requires a recommended level of 68. My group I think is like 47 currently. Characters in this game are actually kind of phenomenal. They're very varied and all look very different, very unique, have very different personalities. They have different strengths, they have different weaknesses, they have different abilities, they have different focuses, they equip different gear. It's all surprisingly complex. There is a lot more to this game than I ever gave it credit for. You can level your characters, you can unlock their mystic forms, which is essentially making use of the dupes that you get, the fragments that you get to ascend them, to upgrade them to higher strengths, to greater rarities. You have your skills. Admittedly, I have not progressed much of Hina's skills, but I feel like her materials, these are some of the most difficult to obtain. Then you have your weapon, you have equipment, which as I said, we're all tier 3 at present. I just actually unlocked the ability to unlock tier 4 through upgrades. So I'm looking forward to hopefully obtaining much greater strength. I unfortunately cannot purchase any more stamina right now without kind of bankrupting myself on premium currency. As you can tell down the bottom left though, there are specific class archetypes that are present. So she's striker, she's a damage dealer, she's a striker, she's a tank. They also have different positions. She's in the back, she's in the front. She's also a tank and a striker. She's a special. So there are two types here, strikers and special. Strikers are the characters that you deploy. They are the physical characters that are out on the field. You control 4 of them. And then there are the special, which are support type characters like this. We have Hane, who is a healer. There is Chihiro, which is a dealer. So they fit various different archetypes. They also have an affinity. So she's heavy and explosive. So she's piercing and special. She's explosive heavy, piercing heavy, explosive light. So you need to consider the strengths and weaknesses of each individual character and how they're going to synergize with your team and what you're missing when it comes to the stage that you might be stuck on. Now, finding the right team composition can be difficult, and upgrading with all the resources that are required can take a whole lot and even more time. But in the long term, it is well worth it, and you're going to want to focus on having 2 very strong teams. The cafe is actually kind of cool. Typically in gacha games, you have your base, but there's like all these different aspects of it, all these different facets that function differently, that have different functions and features that allow for you to craft. Like, here's our cafe. I have so many different themes going on. I have like summer themed. I got like cake cakes and cupcakes, and like Mrs. Stix would probably love this section right here. We have like a bathhouse. Here we have, what the fuck is that? It's like a donut cake and a milkshake. Here's a like, I mean, like if there was a section of this, it could be cordoned off and dedicated exclusively to Mrs. Stix, this would be the section right here, this tiny little circle. Now you can interact with your waifus here, raise their trust or affinity, their relationship. You can invite other characters. You can claim resources by leveling and upgrading your cafe. It's an easy way of getting additional stamina. You can give gifts to your characters. You can edit the entirety of the cafe. You can hold special lessons with your character. And don't take that, I don't mean special lessons. I mean, you can hold lessons with your character, with your waifus, like out of okay, there's really no way I can phrase this without it sounding kind of perverse, but you can do extracurricular activities with your waifus around the school and raise your relationship with them. I seriously, trust me, I cannot make this sound any less dirty. And in doing so, you continue to upgrade the school or the various locations found within the school, which allow for you to have additional relationship options with your waifus. You have a school club, which functions like a guild. I actually just joined one today. I didn't even know that was a feature until today. There's a crafting system, which admittedly is probably one of the weaker points of the game. You select one of the items here, and then you move through and decide what you want to craft. Artifacts, substances, growth materials. Unfortunately, none of these are anything that I want, so I'm just gonna go with the artifacts. I'm gonna add additional items here. This allows for you to unlock additional slots, so you can craft additional items for the same price as one. Growth materials, tech notes, cafe furniture. So I don't see anything for gifts, so I'm gonna go for furniture. You very strongly need furniture in this game because it allows for you to upgrade your cafe, which affects how much stamina you can accumulate. That affects how much you can essentially play the game. There is the shop. Shop's important. There's a lot of useful items here, specifically the eligmas, which are the shards that you acquire for your characters. This allows for you to upgrade them, which essentially makes them stronger. There are other important areas like this where you use your PvP tokens to essentially purchase additional energy, stamina, which allow for you to continue to play the game. I know, shocking. And then there's the gacha, which admittedly I don't think is bad. Doing a 10 pull actually only costs 1200 currency, and that makes for a lot of options after hitting 200. And I mean, like the hard pity here is at 200, so at 200 you can select one of the banner characters. Admittedly, 200 is pretty high. I think as an example, on something like Tower Fantasy, I think it was at like 120 that you could obtain the limited banner character. So I have enough to acquire one of these. I don't think Hinata or Ui are very strong characters. I think Sakurako is like a B or A tier character, where these characters are both C, but I don't think she's an A or S tier character, so I haven't pulled for her yet. Maybe someone will correct me and let me know before the banner expires. I don't know, but the gacha rates are actually pretty good. The gacha costs is pretty good, and that is the game. I have just been so addicted to it. Like, I've just been slowly pushing through it, chapter or mission after mission, engagement after engagement, because slowly building up my team, crafting my team, slowly completing missions that I couldn't complete just the day before gives me this level of satisfaction, because it requires tactics, it requires skill. You can't just send your waifus in and hope for the best. You need to actually take advantage of their abilities. I mean, yes, you could enable auto, which will do the fight for you and utilize abilities that it thinks is ideal for the situation at hand, or you can utilize abilities yourself and take advantage of your own tactical awareness and probably emerge victorious. As you can see, this is the same mission I did just before, where I let the AI handle everything and I use my weaker team. Now, taking advantage of the character abilities and being able to directly control and use them myself allows for me to use AoEs like this and place them down strategically so I can maximize my damage output. I mean, look at that. I literally took down the entire squadron in one AoE. It's that much easier. It is unbelievable how much different fights are when you directly control what's going on. Which isn't to say you can't let the game do it itself. It's just to say that when the game can't successfully do it itself, you're required to. And knowing what your characters can do and how your characters work in tandem with one another is important. Now, again, Blue Archive, probably the most fun I've had in a gacha game all year, with the exception of Honkai Star Rail and Arknights. This is so much better than I'd ever given it credit for. I cannot believe I didn't push through this enough at the time. I have serious regrets, given that video went on to garner like 50,000 views. I don't think this one will. But, I mean, I need to correct my mistake. I need to point out that this is one of the best games that I've played this year, hands down. Now, if Blue Archive is not your kind of game, absolutely no problem. I got you covered with 2 different videos on screen right now that might be of more interest to you.